Today we're going to get into everything that I read in October, everything that I read in November, maybe discuss some things coming up for December and the beginning of 2026 that I'm looking forward to reading. But yeah, we're just going to have a little chit chat of what I've been up to, what I've been reading, what I've been liking, what I haven't been, because I had a little bit of a reading slump, and then I thought that maybe I was going to do a little vlog where I tried like things that were outside of my comfort zone. I started reading a romance novel, and that wasn't going great. I liked the story, and there was just something about the writing style. It was irking me just a little bit. It was like it's too much, you know? Like, I don't know. I guess because I really like either like a literary fiction novel or a horror sci-fi type of novel. Those are like really the things I think currently that I'm gravitating to the most. And so reading, like I was giving my sister an example of like one of the things that bothered me. You know what? Let me get the book. No, I decided to try out Sounds Like Love. And like I said, the story was good. And I was reading it like super quick. Like literally I just was like, okay, let me take a quick glance at this and see if this is the one that I want to pick up next. I stood up, I had it in my hand, and I meant to just read like the first page. But I ended up reading the first like chapter just like immediately. It took me like 2 minutes, you know, and I was like, oh, okay. But then I got a little bit farther, and let me see if I can find. So for example, she had discussed her best friend Gigi already. That was a character that was introduced to us. She discussed her. So she says, a moment later, my name echoed down baggage claim like an ominous siren. Joe! I turned around, and there, sprinting toward me in a pickle costume and waving a sign that read, "You're a real big deal now." What? You're a real big deal now. What? I just thought it said you're a real big deal when I read it the first time. I didn't know there was a now. You're a real big deal now was my best friend. I don't know why, but instead of saying Gigi, instead of just being like, was Gigi, was my best friend. Like, something about the way that that is written was like, of course she said it like that. Of course she couldn't just say there's Gigi. Like she said, there's my best friend. I don't know. Then, I have to go. This is a library book, so I couldn't like, you know, I can't do anything. Okay. It's here. I went too far. Okay. Then. Okay. This is what I'm going to read to you. This is what made me be like, okay, I don't think I can do it with this writing style. Just as I got to the edge of the sidewalk, about to cross the road, a familiar figure came to the front door. Gigi must have texted her that we'd arrived. She popped up and down on her toes excitedly, her hands clasped together. Her hair was a little shorter, a little grayer, but she still wore her tried and true black t-shirt, worn stretchy jeans, and Crocs. There were sunspots on her tanned white skin from years of baking in baby oil in the 80s, and her nails were pristine French tips. She caught sight of us as we crossed the street, and her brown eyes met mine. They were the same color, same soft round shape. Then she smiled. There was a gap between her front teeth that, if her life had been different, would have been called en vogue. And she stepped out onto the sidewalk. The light turned red at the intersection, and I ran across, dodging between tourists heading to dinner and surf shops on the beach. I stumbled on the curb. She opened up her arms, and I fell into my mom's hug. It's like the way that it was set up, like it was a surprise that it was like that's a reveal that it's her mom. I don't know, something about the writing style. It's giving me being a middle schooler, and that's how I would write as a middle schooler. Like, instead of just being like, and then I saw my mom come out of the Revelry. That's the place that her mom was standing in front of. She was wearing this. I fell into her hug. Like, But instead to describe this person and be like, we have the same brown eyes. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why I can't get behind it, but I hate it. Something about it, I hate it. Is this just a me problem? Am I being obnoxious for not liking this? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. I just don't know if contemporary romance is for me. Like, the book that I read in September, Sunburn, was a romance, but it was like a coming of age and it took place in the 90s, and it wasn't like written, it wasn't one of these. It was more literary. It was a more literary fiction style book. I don't think it would be classified as a romance book, even though the main topic of the book is a love story between a girl and her best friend, who was also a girl. It's a queer romance story. And I don't know. I don't know, man. Maybe it's because I also just finished, the last book that I read was I always want to say Upstanding, but I don't think that's the name. I think I might have already returned it to the library, so let's see. Let me go to my notes here. Yeah. Upright Women Wanted. And that is it was Upright Women Wanted, and that is it's like a post-apocalyptic Western, that is also like a queer, LGBTQ plus, themed novella, I guess. It's only like 170, I think, pages. And it was good. Wasn't great, but it was good. But that one, the like love story in it just felt so rushed and forced, and it was like, why is this happening? I don't know. If a story is going to like include romance, it has to be done like a very specific way for me personally to enjoy it, I think. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the books that I read have like a love like element to it. A lot of stories have some kind of relationship as like a crux of it, but there's just something about like actual romance novels, specifically contemporary romance, that I don't know. It just never really appealed to me. It's really funny, all the books that I said that I read, and I didn't mention mystery thriller, which is the main genre that I read. I don't know, how did I just skip mystery thriller? Like, which is something that I hated when I was young. When I was young, I like exclusively read coming of age and literary fiction. And my mom read a lot of mystery thrillers, but like very much more in the like detective, like James Patterson and stuff like that. And I hated them. I was like, this is terrible. Like, how can you read these books? And now, I mean, sometimes it's detective forward, but mystery thriller in general is my favorite genre. So, obviously like tastes change. That's something that's going to happen, but so maybe like I'm just not in the right mindset right now for contemporary romance. Like, I'm not a romantic person, so like I don't know if that has something to do with it. But yeah. I don't know. I'm not giving it back to the library yet. I'm gonna maybe try and give it another go before I return it. I don't know. We'll see. I really want to like these, like, some romance stories. I just want to like be able to have that as an option. Let's cut to me talking about what I read in October, and then we'll be back here to see me talking about what I read in November. So the things that I did read and listen to in October were Whistle, which was part of my Halloween vlog, Opium and Absinthe, which was also part of my Halloween vlog. Yeah. The Children on the Hill, the final listen That was part of my Halloween vlog. Then I read Hungerstone, which was also part of my Halloween vlog. And then I read The Honeys, which was from my pick the most interesting first page from a random selection of books that I pick out at the library. Those 5 things are what I completed in the month of October. 3 were on Audible, 2 were physical reads, and all of them were spooky. So, I mean, you know, we kind of accomplished our goals, but I like filmed some other stuff, like me trying out my dark lipsticks for going out on November 1st for my sister's birthday. I was dressed in like a little vampy kind of outfit, so I wanted vampire vibes. So that maybe I'll slice in like a little chunk right here because it was hilarious. I didn't even realize that my lip liner was eyeliner. Like, it was a hot mess. I'll give you like a little chunk that you could just laugh at me. Obviously, I will use like a makeup wipe to make the line sharp, and this looks so crazy. Whole vlog is just scrap now. So I also like made some cookies that was supposed to be in it and whatever, but I digress. So that vlog isn't happening. So we're just going to get right into my October reading wrap up. And that is what this is right here. So I pretty much already talked about all of these books. I don't know if I talked about The Honeys at all, but I think I've spoken about all of the rest of them. So it's going to be real quick and brief. And then we're going to pick what's going on for November. So first of all, we have Whistle. I rated it 4.5. It is a good old-fashioned horror book. Like old school 90s supernatural haunted train, big bad guy running the show type of horror. It would have been a 5. It was a little heavy-handed with some it's supposed to take place like right after 9/11, and there was some stuff that was a little questionable in there. Not like questionable in that they had bad takes on September 11th. It was just like they kept trying to like beat it over your head that this was 2001, and it was a little much. You know, like, why do we have to mention that it's a Nokia phone? And like, it was just things like that that was like, okay, we get it. We get the time period. You don't have to like, you know, go on and on and on about it. And then also it was like a dual timeline, and we like got away from the like main characters that started off this book. Maybe they are at the opening thing, but they were just what I assumed was like the heart of this book was this main character. And we got away from her story for so long that when we went back to it, I was like, oh yeah, we're following this person and her son. Like, I forgot about them. That's how long we were away from them. So that was like the only 2 things that kept it from really being like a 5. But I liked it. It reminded me of the stuff that I read and listened to when I was in, you know, middle school, that age range. So there's that one. And then there was Opium and Absinthe, which I talked about at length. So this is going to be very brief. I gave it a 3.5. So fun fact, Whistle is the only thing that didn't get a 3.5 the entire month. It was all 3.5 reads, which is a little bit boring. Everything was just fine. Nothing besides Whistle, nothing was great. Nothing was bad. Everything was just like, okay, I read that. I guess I liked it. That was the entire month. So Opium Absinthe was just a little too focused on romance and, obviously like opium addiction and things like that. There wasn't a whole lot of spookiness. It was a lot less spooky and a lot more woman dealing with doing too much opium and other, you know, drugs of that nature. And then, finding her footing in terms of like love and, you know, what she's going to do as an adult, on her own. And so I liked that story, but it just wasn't what I thought I was reading. It wasn't the expectations that I had set for myself in that book were not met at all. I still enjoyed it, which is why I got a 3.5, but it was not scary. Nothing about it was spooky. It was very much just a woman deciding her next steps in life, kind of. So there was that. Then we have Children on the Hill, which was also a 3.5. That one, it was great. I really liked the atmosphere. It was just so predictable. Like, literally within the first, I don't know, third of the book, I had figured out exactly what was going on. So that part, was the only thing that didn't make it like a 5-star read. Well, I mean, it wouldn't have been a 5-star read anyway. The writing was just very like plain and matter of fact. It would have been more of a 4, maybe a 4.25, if it hadn't been so easy to guess the twist. The twist was so like, if you know anything about these kind of genres, you know what I mean? Like, you're just going to be like, oh, they're directing us this way, which obviously means that it's this way. It was very much that. But I did enjoy it. Then we had Hungerstone, which started out so strong. I was like, this is a banger. This is going to be a 5-star. And then the middle slumped so bad and took so long. It took so long. The middle just was so freaking slow. And I was like, hello? What the heck? And then the ending was also good. I liked where the story went at the end. You know, it's a retelling of Carmilla. I never read Carmilla, but I was familiar with the story. So, you know, it was as expected, but it just, the way that it started was so strong that I was like, this is going to be a banger of a book. Like, I don't know why I keep saying banger. I don't know. But I really thought it was going to be a great 5-star read. I was like, oh, like, we're going to say so much about, you know, women. And it was just, Lenore, the main character, the way it took so freaking long for her to, like, figure herself out or get any, like, semblance of power over her life or anything, it just dragged on and on and on. Like, so much of it was just like, Lenore, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And it was like that scene from The Notebook. It was literally, what do you want? It was that over and over and over. It was beating her over the head. What do you want? And every single time it was like, oh, how dare you speak to me this way? You know, I don't know why I gave them Southern accents. They are from England, but it was very much that vibe. It was just like, I don't want to think about my life and myself and like anything that has to do with anything other than me, like running my household and serving my husband. Like, any other thoughts are no-nos. We cannot speak about this. How dare you? And like, it was weird because like the sapphic part of it, like her maybe like having sexual relations with a woman, literally seemed to scare her less than what could you possibly do on your own without this man telling you what to do. Like, that was what? So that part of it was a little bit much. There was times where and like, you know, the author's note, she did say like she was like going through something and like it kind of, the story came out of her because of what she was trying to work through in her own personal life. So like, you know, I'm a very independent woman, you know, I don't subscribe to like any kind of traditional female roles. So maybe for me, it's not difficult to picture any of these things. So like, I don't know. Maybe my headspace is just so different that I can't get myself into the place of, you know, a Victorian woman. She's still Southern. She's not Southern. They live in England. But I didn't understand Lenore's mindset at all. Like, I was just like, come on, girl, get yourself up by your bootstraps, get it together. Like, hello? Are we okay? We weren't okay. We were never okay. And I guess also, like, I read this right after finishing Opium and Absinthe. And Opium and Absinthe, not Symph. And they take place at the same exact time period. Like, one is 1890 and like one is 1888 or whatever. Like they're very similar time periods. So both the end of the 1800s. So for both of them, to have the main character, whose name is escaping me right now, from Opium and Absinthe, be so much more like in her own and like understand herself. And like, I think that there probably is a difference between women in that time period in America versus in England. I'm assuming, because a wealthy woman in New York City in that time period probably had a little bit more autonomy than in England. But nonetheless, the difference between the two women was so, like, it made Lenore that much more frustrating. Like, I was like, do you not have a brain at all? You don't have a single autonomous thought? Like, hello? I don't know why I keep saying hello. I'm going to cut that out. But I was like, what is happening here with you, lady? Like, I mean, when she finally, like, comes out of it and is like, oh, I can just like say whatever I want to my husband and his like literal mistress who is in my face every day. Like, lady, you are angry. Be angry. Like, it was so weird how long it took for her to get there. I guess it would have been a novella if we got there faster, but nonetheless, that part really, I was like, this is taking forever. Okay. And then finally it was The Honeys, which was actually the first book that I read. I read The Honeys first, and then I read Hungerstone after. And The Honeys was very blah for me. There was some cool, like, gross stuff in the middle of the end, that I was like, whoa, now we're getting some, like, scares. I mean, it's supposed to be, like, maybe it is supposed to be horror. I don't know. Let me check the genre of this story. Give me a second. Okay, so yes, The Honeys is a horror. The first genre, it says horror, young adult, LGBT, queer, mystery, thriller. Those are the tags that I'm seeing on Goodreads. So horror is the first one. So yeah, there was a little bit, it took a while to get to like the weird stuff. It was very much just more sort of mystery before that. But it didn't go enough any direction for me. Like, it wasn't enough mystery, wasn't enough horror. It was a lot more just sort of coming of age in a weird environment, was sort of how I read this book. It starts off, I guess, like, right off the bat, the opening scene, like, it starts very much like with a sort of cliffhanger. The first page, so this was my first page, most interesting first page challenge. That's how I picked this book. And, like, literally, it starts off with, like, there's one twin, and their twin is, like, outside, trying to sneak into their room through the window, which is something that they haven't done in years, something that they did when they were children. And the twin that is trying to, like, climb through the window gets in the room, has a big rock, and is about to hit them. And that's how the first page ended. And I was like, whoa, cool. And then, so it is very chaotic right off the jump. But then it is the twin, their name is Mars. They are gender fluid. And they go back to a summer camp. What is that? They go back to a summer camp that they have not been at since the incident. The beginning of the book, you don't know what the incident is, but there is an incident that has driven them away from this camp, and their twin sister, Caroline, was still attending every year. And I think it's been like 6 years or something that Caroline has been going back alone without Mars. And so Mars goes back to the camp to figure out what happened with Caroline. And, there's some weird things that happen, but it's not anything too crazy. It is very much like, oh, like somebody put a speaker out into the woods to like torment Mars. And like, you know, it's not very supernatural. It's very much just like people being mean to Mars. Kind of them getting bullied again like they did the last year that they were at this camp. So, that is very much the majority of this book. It's just kind of that for a while. Which is why it just felt very much like we almost forget at times that Mars is there to, well, at least for me, that Mars is there to figure out what happened to Caroline. Like it just starts turning into, he kind of has interest in one of his fellow campers. And then there are the Honeys, which are like a group of girls who live in a specific cabin, which is near the beehives. And they take care of that. That is their like thing at the camp, that they take care of the bees, and they are referred to as the Honeys. And Mars is like attracted to them, but isn't really fully a part of them, but they're like nice to Mars. And it's mostly that. A lot of it is just sort of Mars figuring out themselves at camp. And so it was good. It was fine. To be honest, it was fine. I did like the little like romance part. I kind of wished it was more of a romance novel, to be honest. Because besides one scene where it gets very intense, where there's some like graphic body horror-ish stuff happening, everything else is just kind of blah to me. So I wish it either went really fantastical horror, like all the body horror stuff happened quicker and everything was just crazy, or it focused more on like a romance with a little mystery in the background. I would have preferred it to go either of those directions, because the way that it was just kind of a little bit of everything and not enough of anything, is my main critique of this book. But overall it's good. Like I said, 3.5 for almost everything. So everything was very just like, it was good. It was fine. And that's everything that I read for October. Okay, so like I said, I had a little bit of a reading slump, so I only finished 4 books in the entire month of November, which is one less than normal, but it might be 2. I don't know. Last month I did 6. October was 6. And November was only 5. But I did think that I was going to finish one more book in between. Because I finished Upright Young Women. Okay, so here's the thing. I listened to Bright Young Women on Audible, and then the next book that I picked up was Upright Women Wanted, and I keep like mixing the titles together. So, Upright Women Wanted, I finished like a few days before Thanksgiving. And so I had a few, like 5 days left of the month, and I got a bunch of little baby books at the library, and I was like, oh, I could definitely finish one of these. One of them was Upright Women Wanted. Like, that was one of the little skinny books that I picked out. And I have 2 or 3 other ones. No, I have 3 other ones, because I think I picked 4 in total. You can kind of see them right there. And so... And then I also got a short story collection that I read the first story at the library, and I was like, oh, I really like this. And so I figured I would either finish one of the little guys or the short story collection before December 1st, or like finish it today. But then I decided I was going to try and read the romance novel. And then I got a game on Steam, Wordatro, which is like Balatro, if you know what that is, but for words. You have to like create the best words that you can. You get points. There's daily challenges, and I'm always like trying to get on the leaderboard, and so I've just been consumed by it. Between that and my schoolwork, it's like there's not enough hours in the day to read. November has been rough. But anyway, let's get into what I actually did read. So first, we have Home is Where the Bodies Are. That is the first book I finished this month. I gave it a 3 stars. It was fine. So the story is about some siblings, 3 estranged siblings, Beth, Nicole, and Michael. And I listened to it on Audible, and each character had their own sections and their own narrator, which I liked. I just kicked my tripod. Sorry. And I really liked that there was, a different narrator for each character. And for some reason, my absolute favorite Audible narrator is Brittany Presley. I do see a lot of people complain when she is the narrator of certain books. I love her. She is perfect to me. So anything that has her in it, I'm always like, yes, Brittany. Yes, Brittany's here. My comfort voice. So she was Nicole, the younger sister, who has some issues with drugs. She is sober during the book, but, she has been a drug addict for many years. And so she was kind of estranged from her brother and sister because of the drug use, and she was almost 30 days sober when her mother passed away. And so basically their mother passes away, and all 3 of them come back home to go through their stuff and figure out the funeral and all of those things. And while they are there, they are going through a box of stuff, and they find a VHS tape. I think it was Beth that watched it first by herself. Did they all watch it together? Now I can't remember if one of them watched it alone and then made the other 2 come in and watch it with them, or if they all 3 saw it together. But anyway, so they're watching this videotape, and then at the end of it, all of a sudden, their dad comes out of the woods, and he's covered in blood, and he needs his wife to help him come figure out what to do with a body. And yeah. So they're like, what the hell? What the hell is going on with our parents? Because their dad has been missing for 7 years. Left and never returned. And that was one of the things. 7 years? 17 years? I don't know. But yeah, he's been gone for a while, and one of the sisters has been writing him emails, and he never responds. And they all, Beth specifically, just, she was on a mission to figure out what happened to her dad. It was it was something that consumed her for the first 2 years after he went missing. Everything was just really strained between all of them. And overall it was good. I enjoyed the plot and the characters. I really liked Nicole, who, like I said, was the one that was on drugs. I found her, very relatable and honest. And, there was some of the things that they tried, that the author, Geneva Rose, tried to put in for, to make it timely, didn't work for me at all. In it, Michael, he's, how old was he? I think he was supposed to be, 11 or 12, and the mom was like, how was your school day? And he was like, it was the bomb! And I'm like, a middle schooler in 1999 was not saying da bomb. Duh, D-A, bomb, da bomb. I get she's trying to be timely, but I'm like, come on. I was 16 in 1999. Da bomb? Yeah. So yeah, there was some of that kind of stuff there was some of that thrown in there. I'm pretty sure she has that one kid say da bomb 3 times when he is a child. And I'm like, there's no 11-year-old in 1999 consistently, unironically saying, especially school. How was your day at school? It was da bomb. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. No. And I'm pretty sure I checked, and like Geneva's pretty young, so she probably doesn't really know. But yeah, some of the timely references didn't really work. And it was a little bit predictable. A little bit predictable. You know, it's like, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe like what the issues were that I had with it, because besides like, you know, silly little like language here and there that I was like, okay, you're trying to be timely, but it's not really working. Besides some of that, like overall, there was nothing really about it that was wrong. It was just not the most interesting, I guess. You know, there were some parts of it that I was just like, why is this? I don't know, it just seemed like filler to me, you know? There was too much other stuff kind of going on that didn't really need to be there. But overall, like all of the reveals and stuff about what happened were done well. Yeah. I don't know what happened to this review. Okay. Anyway, so the next thing I listened to on Audible was Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. And it's based on the real life murders of two sorority girls by Mr. Ted Bundy. And this novel really shits on him, which is amazing. You know, it's very much, so it's focused on the women. It's focused on the girls that were there, the survivors, the victims, and how they're the important part of the story, and that we shouldn't, those are the people that we should be remembering, not him. They never refer, she doesn't say his name the entire book. He is referred to solely as the defendant. Amazing, amazing stuff. So the main character is Pamela. Pamela is the president of her sorority. It's 1978. And she hears a noise and she goes to investigate and she sees a man leaving the house. And that is the defendant. And then it goes back and forth into a couple different timelines. So we're following Pamela and she meets a woman, Tina. And Tina is like, I know who killed your friends. She killed my friend as well. And she shows her a picture and says, is this the person that you saw in your house? Because Pamela is the only witness that saw the actual intruder. And Pamela's like, yeah, that's definitely who I saw. And they're trying to kind of like put the pieces together and convince the sheriff that it is this person that committed these crimes, because the sheriff is very much honing in on someone else, because when Pamela is first retelling the story, she makes the mistake of saying, when I first saw the person, I assumed it was this guy who was, you know, dating my friend. Like, I assumed that she just assumed there's a man that has like a similar stature coming in the house. It's like, oh, it must be Robbie. He's coming to friggin' try and make amends with her again, kind of a thing. And so they are like, oh, you thought it was him. It was him. Like, you know, now you're retracting because you're trying to like protect him because you know him and he's friends with your boyfriend, but like it was him the whole time, kind of a thing. And she's like, no, it's not him. And so we do that timeline, and then we also get the timeline of Ruth, who is Tina's friend that was killed as well. And just, you know, it goes Tina, like we get to Pamela in the future. We have her in court testifying. Like, there's a lot of different timelines that we go through. And it came together really well at the end. It was actually quite intriguing to like really dive into how dismissive the police were to these young women, and just, you know, like hysterical young teenage girls and they don't know what they saw, and like, you know, how the defendant was referred to as like, so the book is called Bright Young Woman because I guess the judge called Ted Bundy a bright young man, like in the courtroom, and it's like, no, he's a fucking murderer and rapist. Like, what do you mean? Like, you know, and so they really do their best. Jessica really does her best in this book to be like, you know, you know, maybe by standards of a serial killer, Ted Bundy is not the dumbest, ugliest human you've ever seen, but, you know, he's still a grotesque POS that, why are people like fawning over him and stuff, and like, you know, just, he was, by the press, the media, the other men around, like, oh, he was so smart, and it's like, the book is like, no, the cops were just bumbling idiots. Like, that's why he got away with it for as long as he did. It has nothing to do with him being some like freaking mastermind. It is just, you know, and basically like his lawyer, and I haven't checked if this is real. I know that, you know, she wrote a lot of it based on real life, and it's like the lawyer is a woman, and it's like, oh, of course now, like, you know, people always talk about how he represented himself, but it's like he would have lost for sure. Like, well, actually, I think he does get convicted in this case. So loss isn't the correct thing. But it's like his case wasn't presented well by him. It was presented well by her. You know, like, she was the person that was smart in the courtroom, not him. But, like, nobody cares about her, you know? Anyway, any book that conveys female rage, I'm going to read and I'm going to enjoy. So this one was no different. It was good. I rated it a 4. 4 stars from me. And then the first physical book that I read was I'll Be Waiting by Kelly Armstrong. Now this one was a 3.5. I think I gave it a 3.5. I probably rounded it down to a 3 on Goodreads. It's probably more of like a 3.25, and it is about a woman, Nicola, and she was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when she was a child. Nick. Sorry, I'm confused because I guess her name is Nicola, but she goes by Nick in this time in her life, because before something happened when she was in high school, and she like moved and changed her name, so she used to be Janica. So Janica to Nicola, and so she goes by Nick. She was probably Nick when she was Janica as well. Like, that's the through line, Nick. Anyway, so she ends up kind of like, you know, new technologies getting better, and her cystic fibrosis, she lives longer than it's kind of like expected, and she ends up having a pretty good life. She gets married to a man who she loves very, very much, and shortly after they are married, they're in a car accident and he passes away. And right before he passes away, he says, I'll be waiting for you. And this was captured on film by, you know, people that are on the scene, because like I said, it was a car accident. So people see a car in distress, they stop, see what's going on. Stuff is getting filmed, and people see this last exchange, and a bunch of psychics get a hold of it, and they're like, you know, oh, we'll contact your husband on the other side, kind of a thing. And so she keeps getting had by these phonies, and she takes some people with her, and they meet a well-renowned medium who is sort of like a skeptic and like works for a university, and is, you know, really studied and kind of like wants to make sure that everything that could be disproved is disproved. And so she really trusts him, and so they all go to have like one final seance to see if they can contact Anton, her dead husband. And some crazy things ensue while they are at the house, and I liked this. It was a fun ghost story. Nods back to a classic urban legend. basically the thing that happened in high school is what I'm talking about when I say that it nods back to a classic urban legend. I thought that part of the story was pretty fun. It gets wacky by the end. It's just like, holy shit, okay. But it really, I think it kind of like, it went off the rails a little too much. There was a little too much happening there. It went, like, the middle was so slow, and then all of a sudden it was just like, whoa, what the heck is going on? It was like whiplash. It felt a little rushed. It felt a little over the top. And then I also had a little bit of issues with this book's like writing and editing and stuff as well. And I was actually kind of shocked when I looked and saw that this author had written like over 60 books, because it was getting a little sloppy near the end. Like, I think she like used the phrase stockinged feet like 4 times in like the last quarter of this book. And I was like, why do you keep saying that phrase? And then on one of them, it was like, she slipped on her stockinged feet, so she took off her socks. And it's like, was she wearing stockings or socks? Like, why? I don't know. Stockinged feet. It was very distracting after the second time it was used. I was like, why did she keep saying that? And every time like someone turned quickly, they wheeled around. She said that phrase also like 4 or 5 times in a very short period of time. And I was just like, okay, the phrase wheeled and stockinged feet need to go. Like, why do you keep repeating this? It was very strange. Just bad editing, if you ask me. You know, that kind of ruined the end of the book for me, to be honest. It was like, I really am being nitpicky. I'm being so nitpicky today. Damn. Well. And then we get to Upright Women Wanted. I really had I think because September and October, like, I read bangers. Like, I had so many good reads in September and October that November just kind of destroyed me a little bit. Although the thing that I'm listening to on Audible now, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to finish it before the end of the month, so it couldn't be in this wrap up, is The Book That Wouldn't Burn. And I'm like 80% of the way done, and I really am enjoying it. So hopefully, you know, that means December's off to a strong start, and I will have a better track record next month. But the final thing was Upright Women Wanted, which I have already started to discuss. It is by Sarah Gailey. Like I said, it is a Western set in a dystopian future. It has an LGBTQ plus romance. It's an action adventure story, complete with bandits and sheriffs and, you know, horseback riding and all of that stuff. And it follows the story of Esther. She is a stowaway. She runs away from her fascist father in her good-for-nothing town, where she has just watched her best friend, love of her life, get hanged. And she decides, I cannot stand to see it anymore, so she stows away in the back of the librarian's book wagon. The librarians come into town and distribute the acceptable reading materials that are permitted in this dystopian future. And so she decides, you know, I could be a librarian, like I can join you guys, and convinces them to let her stay. And she goes on a little journey with them, and she finds out what they're really about. And, you know, it was it was good in terms of the themes. You know, like, I understood that the author wanted to, like, make, you know, she had a specific message that she wanted to express, which I think she did a good job of. You know, and it sounds like a lot was happening, but it really lacks some plot. It's 3.5 stars for me. I rounded it down on Goodreads to a 3. The story is novella length, 170 pages, like I said. So there was definitely something left to be desired. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the themes overall, but the payoff at the end just wasn't there, and that final relationship just seemed really forced, and it really, like, it didn't need to get to where it got to. Basically, it could have just been like by the end of the book some sparks were there, but it like just it ends up going to a place where it's like, oh, a happily ever after with two people that barely know each other, and that was weird to me. But yeah, that is kind of the vibe for November. Not my best reading month. Goodreads Choice Awards were out. How's everyone feeling about that? I know everyone has lots of opinions. Actually, I think opinions are getting less and less about it because everyone kind of knows it's going to be a joke at this point. It's like nobody really cares anymore. But, you know, I still always like go on there and I'll vote and whatever. Unfortunately, two of the books that I was really looking forward to doing well already are out after the first round of voting. Drop of Corruption, which is still probably going to be I think Sunburn is my top of the year, but it's number 2 probably of the year is Drop of Corruption. It was so good. I liked it even more than The Tainted Cup. I love Anna so much. So I was really looking forward to voting for that. But it got knocked out. Excuse me. And then also, even though I haven't read it yet, I was really hoping that Janelle Brown was going to do good with What Kind of Paradise. I really liked Pretty Things. When I read that, when I heard about What Kind of Paradise, like when I read the synopsis, I was like, oh, this sounds amazing. And then like 2 months later, I was like, oh, wait, Janelle Brown. And I realized that it was the author of Pretty Things. Pretty Little Things? Whatever. I don't know. That book I read a long time ago. But I really liked it. I think I gave it like a 4.5. And so then I was like, oh, not only does this sound like an amazing freaking book, it's getting great reviews, and it's written by Janelle Brown. Like, I'm so excited to read it. So I was really hoping that was going to, like, blow it out of the park. And, you know, if I decided to maybe jump on the bandwagon and do some reading the best, you know, or reading some stuff from the Goodreads winners, or maybe just, you know, the top 10, you know, pick something from the top 10 in every category or something along those lines, that would be an option for me to read. Unfortunately, it did not make it. So I can only vote for the things that I had read, which weren't very many. I'm not very timely with what I read. But I did read The River Has Roots, which was nominated for fantasy. Let me just look here. Let's bring it up. Let's go to Goodreads, guys. Goodreads takes so long to load. Like, literally, out of every single website I go to, Goodreads consistently takes the longest to load. The thing ended, I forgot, yesterday. They're tallying the votes, and they're announced on the 4th. So, let me see if I go to my profile, it should show me in my updates what I voted for. So yeah, I know The River Has Roots I voted for. And why is nothing profile? And then let's see what it says. That's weird. The only one it shows me is that I voted for The House of My Mother, which is the Sherry, what's her name? Jody, whatever her name is. You know, her mom was that like crazy friggin' family blogger. And Sherry, what is her last name? Ruby Frankie. Oh my god. What did I say? I don't know. But Jody Hildebrand or whatever, the other lady that's with her, yeah. Okay. Anyway, The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie was the only one of any of the nonfiction categories that I had read. So I did vote for that. I voted for The River Has Roots. I voted for My Friends for general fiction. That's the only one I've listened to in that category. I don't think that I had read any of the mystery thrillers, which is crazy. I usually always have at least one. I can't remember, and it's gone now, so we can't discuss it with you. But yeah, so those are out. I'm glad to see in the top 10 there's only one Frida McFadden this year. Thank freaking God. Hopefully, maybe she'll get not first place for once. And I'm really hoping that that Alchemist, whatever it is, book doesn't win for Romantasy, because I don't know. I can't get down with that. So that's where we're at right now. Those are the plans. Those are the books that I've read. Let me know if I should do a list of 26 and 2026. I know a lot of people did 25 and 2025. And, you know, I can pick some books that I'm looking forward to reading in 2026. Will I get to any of them? Maybe like 2 if I'm lucky. You know, and it's not that I do. I mean, my goal for this year was 30. I'm at book 34 already. So, like, I'm doing great. However, I just go rogue. It's like I mean, if you look at my Goodreads to read list, it is almost 4,000 books. Almost 4,000 books, because I never read any of the things that I say that I want to read. I just randomly go pick stuff at the library that I've never heard of and then read that instead. And then I'll read like 2 or 3 that were like, okay, these are like hit books that everybody loves that I know that I want to read. I sound like Ned Fulmer. Yeah. So here's hoping to a good 2026, a year full of reading. And, you know, I really gotta figure out what I'm gonna do about my Audible, because I have so many things that I just don't really want to listen to, and I don't know what I should listen to next. I think as soon as I am done recording this, I'm gonna go in and kind of scrub through and see what I have and see if there's anything that is viable for next. I'm definitely gonna finish before the 15th, which is when my next credit comes in. So, but thank you for watching, and I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will check in with you soon.